Well, once again, we're happy to have Denny Mclain with us here at Lee High School. And Denny, I think this is what, your sixth year, right?
Sixth year. Who would have ever thunk it? Had a great time. The first year we had a wonderful time here with the folks, and Ty and Dennis and their families. We've grown very fond of them. I mean, I grew up in a neighborhood like this in South Side of Chicago, and I don't know what happened. We clicked, and we've been friends ever since. In fact, we attend, I guess, maybe 15 or 20 softball games during the summer too, and watch the girls play. It's gotten to be quite a thing.
You talked about growing up in the South Side of Chicago. Did you have Little League and stuff when you were a kid?
We did. It wasn't called Little League there. In fact, my dad started it when I was 7 or 8 years old. Make a long story short, we tried to get into a city called Midlothian, Illinois, which is further south of Chicago. And I was 7, and my dad took me over there for a tryout. And make a long story short, I had a pretty good day during the tryout, and I got drafted on one of the teams. And then 5 days later, they found out that I was only 7, I wasn't 8, and they kicked me out of the league right away. So my dad said, "To hell with this, I'm going to start my own league." So we lived in Markham, Illinois. He started the league, and then, of course, after he died at 36, he had a heart attack. And in fact, later on, they named the ballpark after him and everything else because he had started the league over there. He did a lot of work over there to put it together.
You played high school baseball there then, too.
Yeah, I had a scholarship at Mount Carmel High School in Chicago. I think it was the first one they'd ever offered, and it was scary the first time because those Carmelite priests, you don't walk anybody. If you walk anybody with a Carmelite priest, you got a big problem.
And from there, of course, you were drafted by the White Sox and played some minor league ball for them out in the West somewhere.
Well, really didn't get to play much. They sent me to Harlan, Kentucky, where the first game I pitched there was a no-hitter. I struck out 16 and walked 14, I think. It was kind of a long game.
You had a couple hits that game too, didn't you?
Probably, but also it was, I think that game lasted 2 days. I mean, I struck out 16 and walked 14, I think. The next game I got beat 1-0 or 2-1. Same thing, struck out 16 and walked 12 or 14 guys. So they moved me to Clinton, Iowa, and where I had a girlfriend from high school. And, at 18 years old, those everything is flowing, right? So they moved me closer because I kept going home from Harlan, which was, back in those days, we didn't have a freeway system. So we're going through the hills of Kentucky trying to get back to Chicago in 8 hours in a 15-hour trip. And we're lucky we didn't kill ourselves. But we get up to Iowa, and then we go to spring training the next year with the White Sox, and Al Lopez was the manager of the Chicago White Sox at the time, one of the great managers, at least by reputation. So we went to Mexico City, Mexico, and I pitched 3 innings in that exhibition series over the weekend. Dave DeBuscher was on the team also. Everybody remembered the great David DeBuscher, basketball player. He was also drafted by the Chicago White Sox the year before I was drafted, and DeBuscher was given $60,000 by the White Sox to play. Then there was another kid by the name of Bruce Howard who became a major league pitcher and had a pretty good career. When we pitched in Mexico City, we knew they had to keep DeBuscher because they'd given him $60,000. So between Bruce and I, that was either one of us get our brains blown out in Mexico, they were going to let whoever get beat up during the game was going to be released. Well, we both got 9 up and 9 down, so now they were still stuck. On the way back on the plane going from Mexico City to Tampa, Florida, Al Lopez, the manager, sat down and he says, "Listen, I just want to let you know something." He said, "I don't think you'll ever be a big league pitcher." True story. He said, "I don't think you'll ever be a big league pitcher." He says, "You have no curveball, you have no changeup." He says, "All you've got is a pretty good fastball." And he says, "I just don't see you going anywhere from there." He says, "So what we're going to do next Saturday in Sarasota, Florida, where the White Sox were training at the time," Lopez said, "whoever loses Saturday is going to be released to the draft, and whoever gets you, gets you. That's all. Whoever loses." So there was a player by the name of Dave Nicholson who hit a lot of home runs in the big leagues for a lot of clubs. And he was the first hitter of the game that morning. It was Saturday morning, 11 o'clock. And he hit a home run off me that went 400 miles. I'm telling you, one of the longest home runs ever hit off me. And I lose 1-0. And the rest is history.
You were picked up by the Tigers on waivers.
That afternoon. The game ended about 1:30 in the afternoon, and the Tigers were there at 4 o'clock picking me up. The farm director, a guy named Ed Catalinas, who became a dear friend of mine, picked me up and said, "We got a home for you." He said, "You just stay healthy." And I wound up with the K-Lines and the Hortons and the Freehands and great players.
Kind of a story that your first game as a Tiger was against
right.
the White Sox.
That's right. So the first game I get to pitch against in 1963 in the big leagues is against the Chicago White Sox, Al Lopez. And lo and behold, I pitched 9, beat him 4-3, hit a home run, first time up in the major leagues. I said, "Help, what am I pitching for? This is too easy." That was the last home run I ever hit, by the way. And I had one more extra base hit in 10 years. So I didn't become, Willie Mays with the bat. But it was a great time. And as I got the last out that day, I can't remember. I think I struck out Pete Ward, who was a pretty good player back then. In fact, he and I went to Vietnam together a couple of years later, and struck out Pete Ward. And I turned to the dugout out to the left side on the first baseline. I said, "Al, how you doing, buddy?" And then walked off the field. My moment of justice.
Your wife is the daughter of Lou Boudreau.
She is.
And he's major. Everybody knows Lou Boudreau is major league. How much influence did he have on your playing career?
Oh, I don't think he had a lot of influence, but the thing about Lou was he's probably the greatest father-in-law of all time. I mean, the best part of it was he had the same lifestyle. He understood the lifestyle. He understood, and I say this not hardcore, because there's guys that have to go to work every day at 7 o'clock in the morning, but he understood the pressures of the game. Of all of the traveling and things like that. And I'm not saying that was bad. Don't misunderstand me. But it was the other things around the game that could get you in trouble. And he understood that. And whenever there was a problem, Lou was there. He stood up for us all the time. He had great support. And then we went to the Hall of Fame. Was one of the greatest moments of all of our lives when he was inducted. And Lou just died a few years ago, of course. But man, he was some man, a Superman.
Of course, everybody remembers the year of 1968 when we won 30 games and then came back the next year with 27 wins. I don't think
24.
24.
I would have liked to have 27.
I don't think that'll ever be topped again.
No, it can't be. The game has changed. I mean, it's just dramatically changed. They don't pitch enough, number one. They don't get a chance to finish a game. You're giving the responsibility to somebody else to finish the game. I think Verlander only had 3 or 4 complete games. I mean, that's dangerous. I mean, to give the ball to somebody else in the 7th or 8th inning with a small lead, that's really dangerous because you lose a lot of ball games. Now, they had a guy have a career year, the relief pitcher. I can't think of his name right offhand, but, he's a little goofy to begin with. They had all the pieces, all 4 corners worked for this team this year. And if they fundamentally, I'm talking about fielding bunts, making double plays, hitting cutoff men, learning how to hit and run and hit. If they can do those 5 things, they've got a real chance. But fundamentally, they're not very good. Defensively, they're not very good. And I don't know how they're going to fix it, because the guys they've got in the infield, at least the 3 guys, are Cabrera, Fielder, and the shortstop. Those guys are going to play every day, no question about it. Second base, I think they got to go with Santiago. I just think he's too good of a ball player, and for some reason they don't give him a big enough chance. But defensively, they're hurting. I mean, the shortstop doesn't move very well. The third baseman, we don't know yet, although he's got great hands. Cabrera's got as good a hands as there is in the big leagues.
Well, I was really surprised at the progress he'd made defensively at first base. I mean, at the end of the season, he was one of the best fielding first basemen in the league.
And you got to remember, he wanted Fielder. He wanted Fielder there. They talked to him before they made the trade. I mean, I think if he would have said no, Fielder doesn't come. But I think Cabrera also realizes that if Fielder hits behind him, and I mean this, and stay tuned for this, if Fielder hits behind Cabrera, Cabrera may hit 400. I'm telling you, that could happen. Now, if Cabrera is hitting behind Fielder may hit 350, 340. But one of them is going to have, if they stay healthy, one of them is going to have a jump-out year like we haven't seen in a long time in the big leagues.
Yeah, well, hopefully, of course, sometimes you get too many big money ball players on one team. You get a few
There's never enough
Eagles.
money. Never enough money. What are you talking about?
Well, how much money did you make your best year?
My entire career in 10 years, I made $440,000.
And that's just
The
about how
major
much.
league minimum is 500 grand a year now.
And some of them are making that much per game.
It's unbelievable. The thing that we resent is the alumni, is that they won't do anything for the veterans. And I'm not talking about myself, but I'm talking about the guys that played in the late 40s, 50s, 60s. There's still a lot of those guys around. They do nothing for them. And those guys got cut off with the new pension when it went into effect in the either late 60s or early 70s. They got cut off. I mean, some of these guys are only getting $1,000, $1,100 a month, and that's wrong because our pension's got $2.5 billion in cash, and there's only a couple thousand guys that get a check every month. And if you can't share some of that money with some of these guys that are struggling to pay medicine and medical and everything else, then there's something wrong with the system. And there really is something wrong with it. The Alumni Association, we've sued twice trying to get an improvement with the pension for the older guys. Of course, everybody would be included, but especially for the older guys, including one of them was my father-in-law at one time. And, God, we couldn't get it out of federal court. I mean, the federal court kicked us right out the door.
That's the same problem with the NFL right now.
Same thing, absolutely. Listen, I was so shocked. I can't think of his name. I was at a marketing seminar a couple of months ago with a former Detroit Lion, and he was an all-pro, all-NFL, played in the 60s, God, I wish I could think of his name. Here he is. He played 10 years in the NFL. You know what his pension is? $240 a month for playing that bloody game. $240 a month, and they've never tried to do anything for him. Now, they've just recently passed some new money that they're supposed to get another $1,000 a month or something, and I know anything is helpful. But, man, they don't have very many people at all grabbing pensions because you still got to play. I think it's at one time 5 years. I think they've reduced it now to baseball like 4 years to qualify for the pension. But they really have done a horrible job with their players as far as pensions go.
Back to pitching. You said back then you pitched every fifth day or fourth day. Now they go every fifth or sixth day. And I noticed sometime that the pitchers give up runs in the first inning. Like they're not ready, set to pitch. I wonder if there's a routine that would be better off if they did pitch.
It's all rhythm. I mean, I had the same problem. If I got through the first or second inning, I was fine. It's got to do with the adjustments you're making on the mound. At home, it's a little bit easier because you're pitching on the same mound all the time, but on the road, every mound is different. And until you get it contoured after an inning or two, you really don't settle in. I mean, it's just one of those things. You gotta settle in. You can go out there and warm up for 45 minutes, and that's not what it's all about. It's about that mound.
What about the Tigers this year? I mean, we all hoping, of course, that they'll make the playoffs and even the World Series.
If they don't make the playoffs, there will be no Detroit Tigers next year. I mean, my God, if they don't make it with this crew, there's something wrong.
It's got to be, of course.
Listen, we're in the worst division in baseball's ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, Minnesota can't beat themselves. The White Sox don't know if they're playing tomorrow. Kansas City, when the hell have they won a ball game? And Cleveland, it's a joke. It's a debacle in Cleveland. So if we don't win that division, I predicted the other day we'd have the division wrapped up by May 15th. I mean, that's how far out front I think we're going to be. The pitching is solid. The kid we got from Seattle may be the best pitcher. I'm talking about pitcher, and I'm not talking the best stuff. But I'm telling you, he's as good a pitcher as there is in the big leagues today. He has command of his fastball, curveball, slider, and he knows what he's doing. That's the big difference. There are guys, and I've alluded to in the past, Verlander's got as good a fastball as I've ever seen in my life, and that's going to carry him a long time until he loses some of that. But the bottom line is when you're a pitcher and you can pitch like this kid does from Seattle that came over here, this kid may win 25 ball games this year because he's playing with a club he's never had runs before until he came to Detroit. And keep one thing in mind, he's 6'9" or 6'10". When he releases the ball, he's only 50 feet from home plate. Think about that. He's got 10 feet of velocity he adds to the ball by the time it's released. I mean, a mediocre fastball becomes an exceptional fastball when you're throwing the ball from 50 feet versus 55 or 56 feet. He's going to be something. I hope he stays healthy.
I have attended a couple of major league tryouts. My son, in fact, had a tryout at one time. And sitting behind home plate, one of the different scouts there, and I said, well, what do you think? You don't have a radar gun. And the scout says, I don't need a radar gun. He says, look how that kid throws. He says, he throws strikes.
The radar guns are jokes. They are not accurate. They're not anywhere near
Even
accurate.
the strike zone on the TV. I mean,
Well, you can always see that too, but it's not accurate. It's the radar gun is for the fans. The radar guns are for Joe Zamaya to ruin his arm. That's what Joe Zamaya did. The radar gun ran Joe Zamaya out of Detroit. Of course, he liked playing these games too all the time. He hurt his hand the one year during the winter. But the bottom line simply is that it's a dog and pony show. The teams are going to entertain the best they can. That radar gun helps to entertain, oh my God, he threw the ball at 190 miles an hour. And the next thing you're going to see is a guy throwing at 110, 115. And I firmly believe what any number of people have said, aeronautical people and people like that, you can't throw a baseball at 100 miles an hour. Not from 60 feet. It's impossible. You may get it into the middle 90s, maybe 95 or 6, 7 maybe, but you're not going to get it to it. There's two, if I've been flying for 40-some years, and there are certain things aeronautically that can't happen. Throwing a baseball at 100 can't happen.
you still flying today?
Yeah, in different ways.
Not piloting now.
No. I got when I had my meds changed in the late '90s. They suspended my ticket for medication. So I think they just approved the medication. 15 years later, they want to let you fly again. Probably be the wrong time.
Well, Denny, we really appreciate your coming here again, and wish you the best of luck. And thanks a lot. We see all the improvements that have been made here at Lee High School.
It's great, isn't it?
Yes, you were at the baseball field last past summer.
Yeah, I saw it last year. It's great.
Dedicated the press box to you, and you just see the layout there from what it was when Ty and my son played at Lee, up on the hill, and no outfield fence or anything. And it's a great.
Well, I say this every time I get a chance to talk about it. I've never seen a commitment made by people like they've made over here for this. And Ty and Dennis and all the people that support them here, it's miraculous. It's just unbelievable.
Well, it certainly helps when people like yourself take time to come and support.
We have a good time over here. The food's pretty good over here too.
Thanks a lot, Denny.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
For Ray Peuler and Ty Emelander, this is Paul Cableman saying thank you for watching the 6th annual Stubby Overmire Baseball Card Show, which supports the baseball program here at Lee High School. We hope you enjoyed it. Have a good night, and God bless you.